US is again doubling down on the Indian oil waiver. As again, this has been an assertion coming in from the US side, calling India to be a good actor. However, when it comes to a reality check is concerned, India never stopped purchasing Russian oil. But yet, when it comes to the US, seems to be pushing this big assertion that India has stopped sanctioned oil earlier. And this is a repetition that is now coming in from the White House on the waiver line, saying that the waiver has been given to India to be a good actor. As far as monetarily, they believe that the 30-day waiver that has been granted or allowed to India will not benefit Russia in any way. So this is another repetition, rather, that is now coming in from the US side, where they believe that the temporary permission that has been given to India to purchase Russian oil, which is stranded at sea, that aims to relieve global market pressure amid the tensions in the Middle Eastern energy routes as well. And the US again has emphasized that this is a measure which is short-term in nature, and its goal is actually of stabilizing oil prices. Now, a mention of this that was also done by President Trump, where he had talked about certain relief, but however did not mention the countries to be involved. But here, when it comes to aiming at easing the pressure on global energy markets as the tensions continue to disrupt the supply routes in West Asia and the Gulf.
Have I spoken to the president about it?
Yeah.
Yes, I have spoken to the president about it. And the president and the Secretary of Treasury and the whole national security team came to this decision because our allies in India, as you know, Lalit, have been good actors and have previously stopped buying sanctioned Russian oil. So as we work to appease this temporary gap of oil supply around the world because of the Iranians, we have temporarily permitted them to accept that Russian oil. And this Russian oil was already at sea. It was already out on the water. So this short-term measure, we don't believe it will provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government at this time.
I have one more question about Pakistan.
Well, you know, Rishabh, US there emphasizing that the waiver is limited in scope and it is not intended to change the broader policy towards Moscow.
Well, see, one thing is very clear. U.S. wants its own benefit from whatever statement that comes in from the United States. And that is something very clear from Levitt's statement as well, that, it is because there is a problem in the energy supply, this step has been taken. All this word for permitting or allowing is more of, in a way, to satisfy the domestic audience in U.S. as well. Remember, U.S. will also face energy crisis. The prices of oil are going up in U.S. as well. Donald Trump himself tweeted about it. Europe is exerting pressure on U.S. because their energy supplies have been disrupted far way more than what India or Asia would face. And, saying that they have permitted India is, a wordplay that U.S. wants to showcase that why they are allowing, quote unquote, allowing India to buy Russian oil after being dead against it for last 1 year. It is very clear.
All right.
The U.S. wants the Russian oil to flow in the energy market to stabilize the market.
So this exemption that seems to have offered a measure of certain relief, yet it also shows how far Washington reaches when it comes to extending into New Delhi's energy decision. Thank you, Risha, for that update.